My name is Matt Beat, and I'm standing out here on a street, but if you're familiar with me already, you may know me as Mr. Beat. If this is your first time watching me, you probably don't trust me. And that's a good thing. It's good to be skeptical about people you don't know or people you just met. However, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you probably do trust me. I want you to think about why you trust me. Really think about that. In fact, pause this video to think about it if you have to. Okay, you can unpause it now. Thank you. I've worked really hard to earn your trust, but it doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm biased. I'm biased. I'm biased. Sometimes I make mistakes, which means we have growth, which means who's gonna win this election?
Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Yep, the incumbent wins. Despite that, I hope you trust me anyway because I'm trying really hard to get it right. What does getting it right mean? I'll explain that a bit later, but first, I need to tell you what this video is about. This video is about why we trust experts. Let's do a little exercise. What is this man an expert at? What is this woman an expert at? What about this man? What is this man an expert at? Ah, here's another person. What is this woman an expert at? What about this man? Well, we are all experts at the same thing. At least we are all trying to be experts at the same thing. What is that same thing? I'll let you know at the end of the video. No, don't skip ahead! Watch the whole video, if you don't mind. I decided to make this video because I realized a while back that we are probably living in what future historians will call the misinformation age. A time when it was easy to believe whatever we wanted to believe because it was easy to find evidence to back up what we believed, even if that evidence ignored lots of other evidence that proved the opposite was true. One of the most troubling trends of this misinformation age is the growing trend to not trust experts.
Take COVID. Take green energy, take a lot of these topics that the expert class told us we weren't allowed to question. Take the track record of this show. If anything, it's showcasing the degree by which the expert class is lying and abusing that title, that they fall apart under questioning and they need to appeal to authority and go, hey, we can't have other people questioning this stuff.
There's something that people do where even if something is obviously stupid, if it's a part of a system and there's enough air quotes experts that have endorsed this, regardless of the fact that we've seen time and time again throughout history that experts are compromised. You could have a court case for a murder and bring in experts that will tell you he definitely did it and experts that tell you he definitely didn't do it. So we know this for a fact. But still, people argue on the side of the experts. And I've seen this about fluoride.
Or at least experts who tell us what we don't want to hear.
There's now a revolt against the expert class, the people in the bureaucratic elite who have graduated from top universities and gone to top-level law schools and gotten their PhDs in political science. It's a rebellion against a cadre of folks who tend to believe that they have the capacity and ability, because they have high IQ, to control all the things in the world and make things better on every single front so long as you give them inordinate power to do so.
At the same time, we all seem to think that we are experts about everything.
I mean, I've read studies about New Jersey's drinking water having a lot of endocrine disruptors, and part of it's like the pill, the estrogen, progesterone. It's pretty disturbing. So if you care about the environment, ditch the pill, you guys.
I've read studies that say within 2 weeks, I think you can clear your body of all of it. Sauerkraut juice and organic sulfur is what you want to intake to help your body. Yeah, MSM crystals, that's what they're also known as. Yes, I take them every single day and I've noticed a tremendous difference.
Okay, I don't trust anyone on the internet who said that they've read studies. I am fairly certain that anyone who's ever said that they've read studies has never read one study, okay? Anyway, I do think it's good to question experts. We should question everyone. But in this video, I want to convince you that trusting experts will make your life a whole lot easier. Like, you'll be so much happier if you do. Before I explain why we trust experts, I think it's probably better to explain why we trust anyone.
Why do we trust anyone?
Why do we trust anyone? Nearly all of us trust at least a few people. Mostly, we trust our family and friends. Well, close friends. Robert is our friend, but we don't always trust Robert because Robert tends to exaggerate sometimes. Sorry, Robert. We also trust people in the media. Yeah, yes, you do. You do. You trust people in the media, whether you realize it or not. Hey, speaking of which, the sponsor of this video is pretty freaking relevant. One great way to find out whether or not we should trust a media source is by going to Ground News. I've used Ground News for many years at this point. Need I remind you that Ground News is a website and app that gathers articles from over 50,000 news sources from around the world to show you media bias. Here's an example. Okay, here we are on the homepage. I am here regularly. Let's find a story that you might be interested in, huh? How about this story? Trump says Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed. And you can see how different media outlets that lean to the left are spinning it. Let's go down here. Venezuela calls Trump airspace closure declaration illegal. You can click on it and find out more from the actual source. And we can look at center-leaning sources and then right-leaning sources. Notice how they ignore Venezuela's perspective. They prefer Trump's perspective. Going back to the main page, up here in the upper right-hand corner, you can see that there are 730 total news sources on this one story. 100 lean to the left, 103 lean to the right, 126 are in the center, with a biased distribution of 38% center. 77% of the sources are high factuality, 12% of the sources are independent news. And don't forget the blind spot feature, which shows you stories that have been underreported by either side of the political spectrum. With Ground News, you develop a more well-rounded worldview and see the nuance behind the headlines. Go to my special link in the description, ground.news/MrBeat, to get 40% off unlimited access with their Vantage plan, which is the same plan that I use. By subscribing, you're directly supporting an independent platform on a mission to restore facts, transparency, and trust in the news. Thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Let's look at people we typically trust and people we typically don't trust. All right, so there's people we trust. Family, because well, they've always been there for us and have always taken care of us and we can depend on them. Friends, same thing as family, but maybe a little bit less so since they haven't been there since birth. People we don't know personally. We like them and they are good at communicating with us, or they seem similar to us, or they tell us what we want to hear, or stuff that makes us feel better. People we don't trust. Well, that's usually people we don't know personally, especially if we don't like how they communicate, we don't like their personality, or they seem too different from us, or they tell us what we don't want to hear. And yeah, we also don't trust evil people, of course. Yeah, you don't want to trust evil people. But there's another type of people we tend to trust, or at least we did trust until the current misinformation age we live in. Experts. I'm talking about experts, of course. Why do we trust experts? Wait, I haven't answered that question yet? Man, I really need to get to the point. We trust experts because they often predict the future. Sure, experts tend to have certifications and degrees. There's the accreditation process in which fellow experts approve of other experts. But how does someone even get to that point? Well, other than school and training, we generally know someone is an expert if they consistently have a track record of getting things right and can easily show how they know what they know. A real expert generally can explain something simply without dumbing it down. A fake expert will speak vaguely and dodge specifics or lean too heavily on jargon or authority. But overall, we listen to and trust experts because they are basically the closest thing we have today to fortune tellers. They know so much about a topic that, yep, they are often able to predict the future with their knowledge. They see patterns in data, history, or experience that most people miss. But unlike fortune tellers, their predictions can be checked, tested, verified, and improved over time. Let's look at an example.
How many cigarettes do you smoke a day?
Oh, roughly 20 a day.
Are you worried about getting lung cancer?
No, not particularly.
In the early 1950s, scientists analyzed thousands of medical records to argue that cigarette smokers were far more likely to develop cancer. They predicted that lung cancer rates would rise and it'd become a major public health crisis. But many people doubted them. Many said they were being alarmist. But they were right.
Of course, of all the diseases associated with smoking, the most serious is what? Cancer.
Lung cancer.
American Public Health Association says the way things are going, over 1 million young people in school today will die of lung cancer.
Lung cancer rates climbed exactly as they forecast. By the 1980s, it had become one of the leading causes of cancer death. Let's look at another example. How about human-caused climate change? Climate scientists have been predicting human-caused climate change as far back as the late 1800s.
The Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee heard warnings today that a coal-burning society may be making things hot for itself.
Researchers say increasingly large amounts of CO2 are accumulating in the atmosphere. They fear the Earth will gradually become warmer, causing as yet uncertain but possibly disruptive changes in the Earth's climate 50 to 70 years from now. Fossil fuels, when burned, release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Coal, the worst culprit, oil and natural gas to lesser degrees. Scientists and a few politicians are beginning to worry that global energy planning does not take the greenhouse effect seriously enough.
Then you run the model so many years forward in simulated time, compute a new climate, and that's where these predictions, which say 2 or 3 degree temperature warming in 100 years, come from. They come from these models.
Their predictions came true, which means they are experts.
Scientists say that Earth shattered global annual heat records in 2023. The year is now considered the warmest in more than 100,000 years.
Uncontrollable wildfires, intense hurricanes, flooding, droughts. Scientists say extreme weather events are becoming the norm because the Earth's average temperature is consistently getting warmer.
2024 was the hottest year on our record.
And I'm not talking about someone who predicts the future once. I'm talking about people who consistently, correctly predict the future. And fortunately for humanity, experts are consistently trying to debunk each other. Few things are more satisfying than dunking on a fellow expert, or just person in general. Due to this, different experts emerge. And if challenged, true experts tend to correct themselves and acknowledge their uncertainty, rather than double down or dig in their heels. In the misinformation age, many in the media either don't have to predict the future specifically, or are rarely held accountable if they make a specific prediction and get it wrong. I say we change that. I say if someone consistently talks confidently about a topic, we should ask them, we should demand that they make specific predictions.
I think we're looking at a Trump victory, man. Trump 2020 landslide,
and then follow up by calling them out when their prediction is
I think we could see a 49 state landslide. We may be
very wrong.
A Mondale Reagan type scenario.
Oh, Timmy boy.
Landslides 49 states.
I can't believe people take that guy seriously.
49 state landslide.
But we all can't be experts about everything. Sure, humans used to be jacks of all trades. If you lived in the year 1025, you probably knew how to farm, how to fix your roof, how to deliver a baby calf. I mean, you had to be good at as many things as possible. But then society got complicated. We embraced the division of labor, or the separation of work so that workers may specialize. This led to specialization, or the process of focusing on specific areas of knowledge or work, and in turn led to both an increase in efficiency and productivity. I make shoes, you bake the bread. And that guy over there, he spends 40 years studying infectious diseases. The division of labor and specialization is literally why we have experts. And I've got what might be surprising news to some of you. Most human beings only specialize in one thing throughout their lives. Okay, if you're superhuman, you might specialize in maybe 2 things or even 3. Modern civilization literally runs on the fact that we all specialize in something and that we trust that others specialize in something else. I don't need to know how to refine crude oil into gasoline because I trust that a chemical engineer figured that out for me. This is what the author Tom Nichols calls the social contract of expertise. We trade our own ignorance for someone else's knowledge. By the way, have you guessed what I specialize in yet? So what changed? Why are people increasingly not trusting experts? 3 words: the internet. Okay, fine, that was 2 words. The internet democratized information, which is great and all, but it also democratized the illusion of competence. It fueled what's now known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, or a cognitive bias in which people with low knowledge about something tend to overestimate their knowledge. Basically, if you read 3 articles about vaccines, you might feel you know as much as a doctor who went to medical school for 8 years. Well, sorry, Amy, but you don't. But it's deeper than that. Even without the internet, human beings often instinctively resist information that they don't want to hear.
I think the true number is much, much higher. If I'm right, this fireman was holding the equivalent of 4 million chest x-rays in his hand.
Mr. Legasov, there's no place for alarmist hysteria.
It's not alarmist if it's a fact.
Well, I don't hear any facts at all.
So why wouldn't we trust an expert? Because an expert sometimes tells us stuff we don't want to hear. We especially don't like to hear information that threatens our ability to make money.
I like money, though.
During the 1930s, after farmers overplowed their land and drought hit, an ecological collapse known as the Dust Bowl displaced millions of Americans. But look, these farmers, they were warned. For decades before this, agricultural experts had warned farmers in the Great Plains that deep plowing the topsoil would lead to a disaster if a drought hit. People didn't listen. They wanted profit. They trusted their gut. Now scale that up. If we ignore civil engineers, bridges collapse. If we ignore epidemiologists, pandemics kill millions more than they should. If we ignore astronomers, we may all die because we didn't believe that asteroid was coming. But hold up, I can already hear the comment section going crazy. But Mr. Beat, experts have been wrong before. And you're absolutely right. Experts can sometimes be corrupt and be influenced by money. Experts once said that lead in gasoline was safe. Experts gave us eugenics. Blind faith in authority is bad. That's how you get dictatorships after all. But there's a huge difference between healthy skepticism and straight up denialism. Healthy skepticism be like, where is the evidence? Has this been peer-reviewed? Who funded this study? Whereas denialism be like, I don't like what this expert is saying because it threatens my worldview or my wallet, so I'm going to pretend they are lying. Science isn't about one person being right. It's about a constant process of correction. When experts are wrong, it's usually other experts who prove them wrong. Last year, I released a video about the history of Mormonism. Well, many practicing Mormons didn't like the video, especially if that was the only video they had ever seen of mine. I realize this is not surprising, but they particularly didn't like that I was making their religion look bad by saying that Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, was a con artist. But he was a con artist. Like, 100%. He was a con artist. This is a fact that has plenty of evidence to back it up. So why is it that people trust Joseph Smith, a proven con artist, more than they trust me? Well, spoiler alert, it's because I'm not part of their family. They don't know me. Even the few who unsubscribed, I'd argue, didn't really know me. It's completely understandable that people would get upset. In fact, I absolutely expected this would happen when I released the video. There's even a Mormon apologist who immediately made a reaction video dunking on it. I predicted this as well. One of the biggest criticisms that I got was that I was ignorant of the history of Mormonism. And sure, that's fair. I'm no expert on Mormonism. I just made one video on the topic. I've only read a few books about Mormonism and listened to a few podcasts about Mormonism. Nah, man, as I do with nearly every video I produce, I leaned heavily on experts for information in that video. Here's all the sources I used for that video. Sources from experts like Dr. Benjamin Park. I trust Dr. Benjamin Park when it comes to Mormon history, and you should too. Dr. Park is a credible expert because he is a historian who has spent decades of his life studying the history of Mormonism. He uses primary sources extensively. He's recognized by other historians, and his work is peer-reviewed. He's neither an apologist nor an ex-Mormon out to destroy the religion. And if you're coming to me as if I'm an authority on Mormonism, why are you doing that? Like, stop it, bro. Which brings me to my final point. Remember how I wanted you to think about what these 4 people were experts at and how it's the exact same thing I'm trying to be an expert at? We are all trying to be experts at communication. That's it. I'd argue Stephen Smith's knowledge of politics, or even sports for that matter, isn't that deep. Sorry if it seems like I'm throwing shade there, Stephen. You seem like a nice guy. The same goes with Oprah Winfrey, Bill Nye, and Brett Cooper. They are all just really good at talking. Oprah isn't an expert in literature. She's an expert at talking about literature. Bill Nye is not an expert in most scientific fields, although he studied mechanical engineering. Nah, man. Bill Nye is an expert at talking about science. Brett Cooper isn't an expert in politics. I mean, you probably knew that though, didn't you? And finally, I'm not an expert when it comes to history or even American history or even American political history. I'm an expert, or at least I strive to be an expert, in teaching American political history. That's it. And so, if you think about it, most of the YouTubers we watch, most of the podcasters we listen to, and even most of the authors we read are not experts about what they communicate about. They're simply experts at communication itself. Not only that, some of the people who are worst at communicating are experts themselves.
Are we not being clear? We're trying to tell you that the entire planet is about to be destroyed.
That's why it's so refreshing to see this trend starting to change with an increasing number of influencers who also happen to actually be experts in certain fields. It's a rare gift to be an expert in a subject and be an expert communicating about that subject. I'm not an expert when it comes to just about everything. And, as it turns out, you are not an expert when it comes to just about everything either. Sorry. If we're lucky, we'll be experts at maybe 1 or 2 things. For all other things, we simply must trust experts. We live in a society that relies on trust. And not just trusting people we know, or people that we like, or people that we think we know. Look. I trust the person that purified this water. If we lose that trust, if we decide that one Google search is equal to decades of research, we aren't just being annoying. We are dismantling the safety net that keeps us alive. Simply put, if we don't trust experts, we all die.